He failed 1,000 times. Lost everything. His job. His savings. The woman he loved. And on the night he finally gave up, a stranger said something that changed his life forever. This is not a story about talent. It is not a story about luck. It is a story about what happens when a person refuses to stay down, even when every single part of them is screaming to stop. Daniel was 27 years old. He was not extraordinary. He did not come from a wealthy family. He had no connections. No mentor. No backup plan. What he had was one idea. A water purifier. No electricity required, simple enough for any village. Affordable enough for any family. He had been carrying this idea for 3 years. In notebooks. In the margins of engineering textbooks. On napkins at his lunch break. And now, finally, he was going to build it. He had $8,000 in savings. He had a steady job as a junior engineer. And he had Sarah. "You're really going to do it," she said. "I'm really going to do it. And when it works, everything changes." He did not know then what this dream would cost him. Nobody ever does. It didn't work. He stood there for a long time, just standing, staring at the puddle forming beneath the machine. Then he sat down on the floor, took out his notebook, and started writing. Filtration membrane, wrong material. Start again. He was not scared. Not yet. Edison had failed thousands of times. He had only failed once. He still had time. He still had money. He still had belief. 3 months later, Prototype 2 was ready. He didn't call anyone that night. He just sat in the workshop. In the dark. For a long time. The voice came quietly. Just a whisper. What if the idea itself is wrong? He pushed it away. Went home, slept for 3 hours. Came back. And started again. It had been 1 year. Daniel. He looked up. Put the notebook away. I'm just. Please. When was the last time we talked about something other than the machine? He opened his mouth. Closed it. I can't remember, she said softly. Neither can I. He told himself he would fix it. He told himself once the machine worked, everything would go back to normal. He believed that completely. He was wrong. 8 months after failure 2, Daniel had rebuilt, redesigned, spent the last of his personal savings on Prototype 3, and he had done something else. Something that had taken 3 months of emails and rejection. He had landed a meeting with real investors. The machine ran. 30 seconds. 1 minute. Daniel exhaled. Then. The lead investor looked at Daniel. His expression did not change. Interesting concept. But we don't fund interesting. We fund proven. He spent the train ride home staring at the floor. By the time he got back to the workshop, he had already decided to try again. But the bank account was nearly empty. And so he did something that made his stomach hurt. He took out a loan. Prototype 4 was the best thing he had ever built. He knew at the moment he looked at it. Every flaw from every previous failure. Corrected. Every weakness. Reinforced. High voltage, but something was wrong. And he didn't know it yet. He did not move. He did not speak. He just stood there, watching the smoke rise. From the best thing he had ever built. 4 failures. 2 years of his life. $11,000 in debt. And the voice came back. Louder this time. What if you are just not good enough? Daniel. You've been with us for 4 years. Daniel sat very still, missed 3 project deadlines. Late on 2 reports. Your team says you're unreachable after 6. The manager slid the paper forward. We have to let you go. No job. No savings. $11,000 owed. A machine that wouldn't work. And then, Sarah called. She had been expecting this. And still, he was not ready. Sarah. Don't, she said. Her voice was quiet. Steady. That was the worst part. She wasn't angry. She had moved past anger. She was done. I love you, Daniel. I genuinely do. Then stay. I've been staying. For 2 years I've been staying and waiting and hoping. She looked down. Every morning I wake up and you're already gone. Every night I fall asleep before you come home. And when you are here, you're not really here. I can't keep living in the margins of your dream, Daniel. He had nothing to say. Because she was right. If it worked tomorrow, would all this pain be worth it? He didn't answer immediately. That silence was her answer. I hope it works, Daniel. I really do. He sat down on the floor. Right where he was standing. And he didn't move for a very long time. He had told himself that the machine was worth everything. He had not understood what everything meant. Now he did. 3 weeks. He had not touched his tools. Had not opened his notebook. Had not called anyone. Had barely eaten. He had sent out 12 job applications. Heard back from 2. Both rejections. That was the moment he decided. He was done. It was a Tuesday. 11:47 p.m. He didn't know where he was going. He just needed to move. Needed to feel something other than the walls of that apartment. He walked for 40 minutes. Until the streets got quieter. Until the buildings got smaller. Until he found himself standing at the edge of a small park. The kind that no one goes to after dark. He sat down on the nearest bench. Leaned forward. Elbows on his knees. Face in his hands. And he said it out loud. For the first time. To no one. I'm done. Not a question. Not a cry. Just a fact. Quiet. Final. At the far end of the park, something moved. Daniel did not look up. The old man said nothing. He did not take out a phone. He did not fidget. He just sat there. Looking at the sky. Minutes passed. The wind moved through the bare trees. Somewhere in the distance, a car. Then silence again. Long night. Daniel didn't answer at first. Then, you could say that. You look like a man who's been carrying something very heavy. Daniel said nothing. For a long time. The old man added. Quietly. What was it? What? The thing you were carrying. And then. Daniel didn't know why. He told him. Everything. The machine. The failures. The investors. The job. The loan. The silence at the dinner table. The suitcase by the door. The sketch in the bin. He talked for 20 minutes. The old man did not interrupt. Did not offer advice before it was time. Did not check his watch. He simply listened. Like a man who knew that sometimes. That is the only thing needed. 2 years. The old man said. Yes. And how many times did you go back after failing? Daniel thought. Every time. Let me ask you something. Okay. If it worked tomorrow, would all this pain be worth it? He thought about the villages. The children who walked miles for water that made them sick. The women who spent hours every day carrying clay pots. He thought about the sketch on his wall. The one he had pulled down and thrown away. Yes. He said. Quietly. Honestly. Yes. It would. Then you haven't given up. You've just run out of fuel. There's a difference. Daniel stared at him. The old man continued. Still quiet. Still steady. Every time you failed and came back, you weren't losing ground. You were putting down roots. 2 years of failures. 2 years of getting up, 2 years of learning things that couldn't be learned any other way. That's not a man who failed. That's a man who has been building the foundation. Daniel's throat tightened. The storm isn't over for you, son. But your roots are deeper than you know. He opened his mouth to speak. To say thank you. To ask the man his name. He was gone. As if he had never been there at all. 3 words. You were rooting. He did not go back to the workshop. Not yet. First, he sat with his notebook. And he did something he had never done in 2 years of failing. He asked himself what each failure had taught him. Failure 1, the membrane material was wrong. I now know exactly what material works. Failure 2, the motor placement caused the spark. I now know where not to put it. Failure 3, the seam structure was too rigid. Pressure builds at rigid joints. I know that now. Failure 4, the motor burned because the machine generated more pressure than expected. He stopped. High voltage, and then, he saw it. The thing he had been missing for 2 years. Failure 4 hadn't ended because the machine was too weak. It ended because the machine was too powerful. The motor didn't fail. It was overwhelmed. He didn't need a new motor. He needed a pressure valve. One small component. That was all. It was always this close. He whispered. He went back to the workshop. But he was not the same man who had left it. He was not building with desperation anymore. He was building with everything he had learned. Every failure had been a teacher. He had just been too afraid to sit still and listen. Prototype 6. He did not tell anyone. He did not film it. He did not make any calls. He just built it. And when it was ready, he stood back. Took a breath. Closed his eyes. And pressed the switch. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 5. 10. It worked. After everything. After every failure. After every night of doubt. After the loan and the lost job and the empty apartment. It worked. 1 year after that night on the bench. Daniel's device reached its first village. Then 5. Then 40. Then 300. Within 2 years. 340,000 people had access to clean water. Because of one man. Who failed 5 times. And sat on a bench at midnight. And almost didn't get back up. High voltage, and then came the moment Daniel did not expect. It was from Sarah. She had heard about his work. About the villages. About the award. She wrote that she was proud of him. Genuinely. Completely, but that was not what stopped his breathing. It was the last paragraph. I drove past that park last week. The one near Elmwood. I don't know why. I just found myself there. There was an old man sitting on one of the benches. He was feeding pigeons. And when I walked past, he looked up at me and smiled. And I felt something, Daniel. I felt completely, suddenly okay. For the first time in a long time. He had gone back to the park. Many times. He had asked the groundskeeper, the nearby shop owners, the night security of the buildings facing the park. No one knew the old man. No one had seen him regularly. One woman, a florist who opened at 6 a.m., had looked at him strangely when he described him. "That bench has been empty every night for years," she told him. "I walk past it every morning. No one sits there after dark. It's too cold." Daniel stopped trying to explain it. Some things are not meant to be understood, only received. Years later, Daniel would stand in rooms like this. Schools, colleges, community halls. And at every single talk, someone in the crowd would ask the same question. "What kept you going?" He would look out at the faces. Young faces. Some of them carrying things he could see even from the front of the room. The weight of people who have been told they are not enough. And then he would say, "I didn't keep going. I stopped. I sat on a bench in the dark at midnight and I told the empty park that I was done. And I meant it. What changed wasn't my willpower. What changed was my understanding of what failure actually is." And then he said what came after. The part the old man hadn't said. The part Daniel had figured out himself. In the years between the bench and this room, failure is not the opposite of success. It is the foundation of it. Every time life breaks you down, it is not destroying you. It is burying your roots deeper. So that when you finally rise, no storm will ever bring you down again. He was thinking about a park bench. About rain. About an old man who appeared from nowhere. And who left the same way. He never found out who the old man was. Some people in his life suggested it was just a stranger. Just someone who happened to be there. Just coincidence. Daniel would nod. And smile. And say nothing. Because he knew something they didn't. The people who find you on your worst night, at the exact moment you need them most, are never just coincidence. The tree that survives the storm is not the one with the hardest wood. It is the one with the deepest roots. If this story meant something to you, consider subscribing to the channel. Share your thoughts below. We're building a space of strength, growth, and wisdom together. And no matter where you are right now, keep moving forward.